Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to RWBY Vol6 Chapter 5. Last episode basically had two halves to it. The first half was the aftermath of the giant lore drop we had, in which Team RWBY and Crow basically overreacted and demonized Ozpin for the only negative thing he really even could be considered having done, and that is not telling them the info, and not especially the fact that Salem can't be killed. That's really the only negative thing he did, and that's not even that bad. I said it before, I'll say it again. Ozpin, in the long run, in the grand scheme of things, did nothing wrong, and he shouldn't be getting demonized like this. And I hope that eventually Team RWBY and Ozpin realize this, because they're acting like he killed their family or something. They're acting like he single-handedly, with his own hands, murdered their loved ones. That is their reaction. They're going way too far with it. Again, yes, he probably should have told them. But in the end, he had reason not to, with everything he's gone through in all of these different lives, all of the people who have most likely betrayed him. It wasn't just Leo. And it wasn't even just Salem who betrayed him as well. A lot of people have probably betrayed him. Dozens, I would wager. At least. And so it's like, of course he's not going to tell you everything. But in the end, because of Crow and Team RWBY's actions, he locked himself away in Oscar's head. And who knows where it's going to go from here. Team RWBY have stumbled upon Brunswick Farms, we know. And so I guess they're going to camp out there with Maria as well, for the time being. Meanwhile, we also saw the villains. So Hazel, Mercury, and Emerald return to the domain of darkness to relay what happened. And Salem gets upset, and she blames Cinder, and she's kind of leading everyone else to do the same, to say that Cinder is the one who's at fault. Although it definitely was, Cinder definitely altered the plan, and she was definitely at fault to a point, but it wasn't just her. It definitely was not just her. And Salem had a freak out when she found out that Ozpin was leading our heroes. So obviously she didn't even expect him to be back so soon. That's what I assume, because obviously she knows about his curse, so she knows he'll keep coming back and everything. Just probably didn't expect it this soon. But yeah, and I really want to talk about Emerald. Like, Emerald it's becoming more and more apparent with each passing volume that Emerald is likely going to become redeemed. In that last episode, what was Emerald's character? You know what her character was in that last episode? She was a scared, sniveling child. You know, when Cinder, Mercury, and Emerald attacked the previous Fall Maiden, Amber, and Emerald used her powers to trick Amber into seeing her as that small, scared child, that's what Emerald has become. She is terrified of Salem, and rightfully so. She is terrified of her. Without Cinder around, she's lost as to what to do or what to believe in. She's clearly uncomfortable with all of this. I don't think she agrees with Salem's mindsets on any of this. I think she's only been in this entire time because of Cinder. And honestly, at this point, I think that she's on the fast track to betraying the bad guys. And I don't think she's going to be alone. Mercury showed actual caring for her in last episode as well. He showed, like, when Tyrion was getting all up in Emerald's face and being, well, Tyrion, he put his hand on Emerald's shoulder and told Tyrion to back off in a very aggressive tone, a protective tone. I think Emerald, or Mercury rather, almost kind of sees himself as Emerald's big brother, or at least that kind of figure to her. He's really all she has in this time, and I think he knows that, and I don't think he's fully comfortable with all this either. He's trying to protect her. He's being there for her at this point. And I really hope this is the case, and I really hope that something comes to this, and that both of them do end up leaving the bad guys. I mean, I really love Emerald as a character, and I really do enjoy Mercury as well. And in the past volumes, they really haven't had as big of a role, and definitely not as villainous of a role. Even though they're on the villain side, and even with last volume, with them helping in the attack, they weren't that villainous. I don't know, they just didn't come across as evil to me, like they had in previous volumes when working directly for Cinder. I don't know, it's just, I definitely think there's a big change coming with that, and I really hope so. But either way, yeah, I just really am liking where this volume's going for the most part. Again, I don't like the fact that Team RWBY and Crow are being as aggressive towards Ozpin as they are. I can only chalk it up this moment to the fact that they're overwhelmed. All of that information being dropped on them so suddenly, and the fact specifically that Salem can't be killed, that's got to be extremely stressful for them. To find out that, and RWBY asked Ozpin, what is your plan? And when he said he doesn't have one, it's like, that's even worse. Like, he doesn't have a plan. And it's like, yes, again, this is something he should have told them before, but at the same time, he did still have reason not to. And though I can see why this upset them, but they are taking it too far, and I think that it is just the stress of all of this being thrown at them at once. They need to calm down. They need to just chill and take a moment to breathe so that they can get their bearings and get their heads on straight. And thinking about this rationally, hopefully they'll come to realize that they were in the wrong, that they overreacted, and that Ozpin is not as bad as they're making him out to be, and that they need him. So that's my only hope. Because if this show does try to paint Ozpin as being in the wrong here, I'm going to be legitimately upset. That will be the worst mistake this show has done. This show's been great, and yes, it's made mistakes before, but it's never made a mistake that bad before. Not even close. I really hope that they don't go that route. Either way, yeah, I don't know anything about what's to happen in this episode. I've not been spoiled on it at all, and that is why I'm actually recording it ahead of time. Although I've been doing that for pretty much everything lately. So yeah, I'm recording this actually on Monday. But you're obviously still not seeing it until Saturday. So yeah, I'm excited for this, so let's just get started. When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts, and will contain spoilers to the episode. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, another good episode, and like the last one, this had two main parts to it. So, there's the first part, continuing off of Cinder's stuff. So a week after she first came to Little Miss Malachite, she goes back to get her information. And Little Miss Malachite did find out where they are and did tell Cinder. She kept her end of the deal. But what she had said before also came to fruition. Because remember, Little Miss Malachite told her underling before, we don't know who might be looking for her. And as it turns out, someone did come looking for her. Neo is back. Oh, we have been waiting so fucking long for this. Seriously, like, Neo is one of the characters I've been wanting to return so badly. Right up there with the likes of Velvet and Coco. Well, I mean, I guess just Team Coffee in general, but still. Especially Velvet. But yeah, everyone's been wanting Neo to return. She's a fan favorite character, and although she hasn't done a lot in the series, she was only actually in 2 volumes, volumes 2 and 3. And she never really did a lot. She was just instantly popular. Her silent demeanor, the way she fights, her design, everything about her is just interesting. Plus, of course, she's made a name for herself in RWBY Chibi as well, just being extremely adorable and hilarious. But she finally makes her main series return, and she's after Cinder. Now, I don't know if she was blaming Cinder for Roman's death at first. I don't know, because even after Cinder's like, no, it's RWBY, why would she still attack Cinder at that point? See, the problem with having a character who doesn't talk, no matter what the reason for it is that you don't actually know their motivations, especially when they're not really working as a sidekick anymore. Now, we can presume that she's going to start working with Cinder coming up, because it kind of leads into that. But at the same time, it's like, what was her actual goal with this? Why was she attacking Cinder specifically? Who does she actually blame? The only reason she actually stopped attacking Cinder was because Cinder showed off her maiden powers, which surprised her. Cinder was basically saying, you're not the only one with a grudge against her, and it's kind of making us assume that is what's going on with Neo. But I don't know if it actually is. We don't know. That's the thing. Now, I also brought up the idea that will Neo actually finally talk? Will we actually get to hear her voice? I'm really hoping so. Like, the only thing we've heard close is the little gasp she did when RWBY opened her parasol and sent her flying off in Volume 3. I want to actually hear her legitimate voice. I want to hear her talk. Or at least I want it to be explained that she actually can't. I don't want it to just end up being that she just chooses not to. And I don't want it to be that it's never actually, like, gone into. She either needs to speak, even if it's just a little bit in saying that she doesn't like to talk, and that she chooses to let her actions talk for her. Even if it's just that, at least have her explain that. And even if she doesn't speak much afterwards, at least have her speak maybe every once in a while, or at least do something more, you know? Or have it somehow be explained to where she legitimately cannot speak. I'm fine with either way, but one of those needs to happen. She needs... Or, I mean, obviously, she could just speak and reveal she just hasn't had anything to say. Or she just hasn't spoken in those moments when we've seen her, I guess. But yeah, something needs... We need to go into that. Like, I'm sorry, I don't see the appeal in a character just being silent and not having that be explained. That's annoying, honestly, especially when the show is very steeped in dialogue. Let's be honest, this show is steeped in its dialogue. Its dialogue is important. The characters speaking to each other, whether in battle or in discussion or in terms of sharing information, it's an important aspect of the show. Which is why I've never understood all the hate against people, all the hate people have been giving towards the show in the past few seasons when it's been focusing more heavily on that. Because it's like, this show's always been about its dialogue, always been about its what's the word? Just its characters speaking to each other. it's always been more about that than the action. A lot of people complain about that, like it should. Oh, the show needs to go back more towards action focus, and it's like no, it was never about the action. The action was just kind of like the cherry on top. It was a bonus. It was good action, and it was good to be a part of the series, and there is still action. It's just like it's not the focus. The focus is on the characters and the story. And it always has been, and people just aren't willing to admit that. They think it should be an action show above all else, and it's like it never was. But the point is, in a show that is so heavily steeped in dialogue, that has that focus on the characters and the stories and how they communicate with each other and all, having a character that just doesn't speak and it's never like explained why or anything, it won't work in my eyes. It'll just come across as weird, and it just needs something needs to be explained. Again, if she's actually legitimately mute and cannot speak, I'm fine with that, as long as they tell us that. And especially now that she's working with Cinder, they're going to have to communicate somehow. And I'm not accepting of it, like just being like Cinder saying things that only Neo can respond to with a shake or nod of the head, or a shrug or whatever. Body language is important, but you need to have more than that. I'm sorry, it's just maybe that's just me. And don't get me wrong, I still do like Neo, but this kind of stuff has to be brought up. But the second half of the episode, the second part, was with Brunswick Farm. So Team RWBY and Crow and Maria is there. I'm counting Oscar as part of Team RWBY at this point. I'm just gonna like refer to them, just to make it easier, refer to them as the heroes at this point. So the heroes are at Brunswick Farms, and they're just trying to figure out what's going on, why it seems abandoned, despite the fact that it looks like it's in perfect condition and everything. They start to explore, they get into this house to brave out the storm and everything. And Weiss has a very traumatizing experience of coming across the corpses of two of the people from the farm. Yeah. That's disturbing. That would disturb me if I was there. And Weiss's scream, and definitely how it affected her afterwards, is very believable and understandable. So they find out, I guess Crow looks at all the other houses, and apparently every house is like this. The corpses of these people just laying in their beds as if they just went to sleep and never woke up, raising a lot of questions. So everyone's just kind of starts to explore around. Crow starts to search around, see what else is going on around the farm. Yang and Blake go off to explore as well, because Crow tells them, if you go off, just make sure you're not alone, basically. So Blake and Yang go one way, RWBY and Weiss go another, and Maria and Oscar kind of just stay where they're at, and Maria's, I guess, looking for a story to tell us, to share with Oscar or something during the time. So Yang and Blake go to this barn. They find a tractor and stuff inside, but nothing that can really help them. And they start to talk. Yang has some more PTSD stuff, which is great. I love that they're still showing that, because you don't get over PTSD that quickly and that easily. You can make big strides in it, but you don't just get over it like that. Legend of Korra showed that excellently, because even after the metal was removed from Korra's body in Book 4, thanks to help from Toph and everything, she still showed that PTSD afterwards. So I really like that. I really like that this show is doing that kind of thing too. That Yang is still having those flashes. She's still seeing Adam wherever she goes, and she's afraid. She's legitimately afraid. She lost an arm, and it caused, honestly, the teammate she was outside of RWBY closest with running away and giving her this feeling of abandonment. And even though Blake assures her here that she's going to stay with them now, that she's not running away again, there's still some tension there. Like when Blake says, "I'll protect you," Yang almost seems like she's offended by that. And I think I might realize a little bit of why. When Yang lost her arm to Adam, she was protecting Blake. She was trying to protect Blake, and Blake's response to that, in her eyes, in Yang's eyes, was running away. Yang saw Blake's response to her protecting her as running away. And so Yang, when Blake says that she'll protect her, Yang feels almost betrayed again. Like, it's like, I tried to protect you and you left me. Why do I need your protection now? That's kind of what I feel like it's going for here. I didn't think of that right away, actually, when I was watching this. I actually only thought about it afterwards. But yeah, that's kind of how I'm thinking it might be. I might be off the mark, but think about it. Like, that's what Yang was trying to do. Blake was being attacked by Adam, and honestly, Adam had the upper hand. Yang saw her and saw Adam and went in there to protect her, and that's when Adam sliced off her arm. And Yang fell unconscious, and the next thing she knows, when she wakes up, Blake is just gone. She ran away. She left. Yang felt so betrayed. And all she was trying to do was protect her friend. And now that Blake is saying that she's going to protect her, Yang feels like, maybe like she's looking down on her. And I mean, we know Blake's not, and I think Yang knows as well, that Blake, that's not what's going on here, but it hurts her because it's really a bad memory and the biggest part of her PTSD. So yeah. So we have all that going on. Meanwhile, Ruby and Weiss are exploring the house they're in, and they find this this winery, a whole lot of wine and presumably other alcohol. And they joke like, "Yeah, we should probably keep Crow out of here." And it's like, legitimately though, he's going through a lot, and I think he's taking this harder than any of them, because he had been in Ozpin's service for a lot longer. So, I mean, it kind of came off as a joke, but at the same time, it legit. Like, if he found that, he would be drinking away his problems, and it probably would not be a good thing. Let's be honest. Though he can very likely fight pretty well while drunk, it's not the best idea. It's just not. I mean, heck, he was drunk when he fought Winter, when he was first really introduced and all, so, yeah. So we know he can actually fight when drunk. But still, it just wouldn't be a good idea. So they find this other cellar there, but basically get distracted by food, which is good that they found that. And they don't check out the cellar. And something's in the cellar. It's chained up, and we see the door slightly bump up and open a little bit. Something's in there. And that's a bad omen. That is very ominous. Whatever's in there is going to be very bad. It's going to be whatever killed all of these people, or at least caused their deaths. I don't know if it's a Grimm. I don't know if it's something else. It could be a person whose semblance caused this somehow. We don't know. We have no clue. The only thing we can infer is that whatever is in there has some level of intelligence. And I say that because of the way the cellar door opened. If you noticed, when the cellar door opened, it didn't like pop open. It didn't like try to burst open like it was trying to break through. It calmly opened. It was as if someone was reaching up. Someone opened it as if to like to look at like, oh, there's people out there. So, we know Grimm can get intelligent. We know that. Like Ozpin, or not Ozpin, oh, it's been so long. What is his name? the green-haired guy, the crazy one, the one who's always drinking coffee. Oobleck. Dr. Oobleck. Dr. Oobleck mentioned in Volume 2 to RWBY when they're looking at the mammoths from far away. Grimm can get intelligent with age. They learn. So this could be an intelligent Grimm, or, again, it could be someone with a semblance who has been seen as extremely dangerous and was locked up because maybe a bad mental state or something was causing problems. We don't know. It's just really hard to say, but whatever is going on in this farm, it's not good, and probably something bad is going to happen. At least it's going to be really, really dangerous. Whatever's happening, though, it's definitely very horror-based. Like, this show's gone into some dark stuff, and yes, the Grimm, to a degree, and even Salem, to a degree, have this horror-like aesthetic. But this show has never actually delved into, like, a straight-up horror theme before. The closest they've gotten is the Nucklevy. The Nucklevy is definitely very horror-themed in its aesthetic and the way it moves, the way it acts and stuff. But even so, it's like, it still came across as this is still just a Grimm. A very creepy Grimm, but a Grimm nonetheless. And we kind of see now that it's actually very much like the God of Darkness, because the God of Darkness had similar movements when he first came out of the Pool of Darkness, the Pool of Grimm. So that's interesting. But either way, that's the closest it's gotten to, like, really big horror theming until now. Brunswick Farms is RWBY taking on horror, and I love it. The concept of all of these corpses in their beds as if they just all died and didn't wake up, all of them in every single house on this farm. This presumably intelligent creature in the cellar. The just overall very creepy atmosphere. This is straight up horror. In fact, it's almost kind of making me think of a few different specific things. The corpses in the bed reminds me of Telltale's The Walking Dead Season 1, in which they find a couple of corpses in a bed at one point, holding hands, a husband and a wife holding hands together, having committed suicide to stop themselves from becoming like the zombies. It definitely reminded me of that. But it also, just the setting, the snowstorm and everything, is kind of reminding me a little bit of Until Dawn, one of my favorite video games of all time, and definitely one of my favorite horror games. So it's like, there's some definitely good stuff here. The cellar itself kind of makes me think Amnesia. It just has that kind of feel to it to me. Which, I mean, for those of you who have been on the channel and on the old channel and stuff, I had played Amnesia on stream and stuff before, and I could not even finish it because I was, like, legitimately terrified of it. It was legitimately the scariest game I've ever played. Not necessarily the best horror game I've played in terms of other stuff, but the scariest by far. Especially because I was actually playing it. I'm not good at playing horror games, let's put it that way. But it's this part of RWBY is giving me a lot of these vibes of other horror genre stuff. Games in specific, of course. But just horror-based stuff in general. And I like that. I like that I'm getting these horror vibes. That it does seem to be taking on a full-blown horror-themed, at least, part of the show. Now, one thing to note as well, going back to the entire Cinder stuff. What Little Miss Malachite told Cinder is that the group were seen boarding the Argus Limited, but that obviously Argus wouldn't be their last stop, and so Cinder put together they're going to Atlas. No mention was ever made, although it even said that that was a few weeks ago, which obviously, as we know, it's been a couple weeks. There's a little bit of a time skip thing going on. The events with Cinder and I guess now Neo are happening in the future from the events of our heroes, which is a really interesting way to do this. So that I really am interested that they're doing it that way. But yeah, it's just like, so we don't actually know at the point where Cinder's at. We don't know where our heroes are. We have no clue. All we know is that in their time, the time we're seeing for the heroes, they're at this place. And clearly, Little Miss Malachite and I guess her informants and stuff don't know either. All they know is where the heroes were. They don't even seem to know about the crash of the train. Well, the crash, the separation of the two halves of the train, and then the crash of the back half. They don't know about everything that happened to the Argus Limited. Let's put it that way. But I mean, why would they? So yeah, it's just interesting. Presumably, Cinder and Neo are going to be heading towards Atlas. And now, I don't know if Team RWBY are already there in their time or not, but I guess we'll just have to see. I don't know. There's a lot of questions because of this entire... both of these stories taking place in different time periods. There's a lot we don't know and a lot that really doesn't connect yet. I mean, presumably it's all going to come to a head. We're going to see how the two stories connect down the line. Now, the one big thing that's still left a mystery at this point, we still haven't gotten explained, is who is Maria? She's important. We know that for sure. Like, it's super obvious in the way they're portraying her character, as well as the way she's portrayed in the opening. She has some level of importance. There's been a lot of different theories. Well, maybe she has silver eyes. Maybe she's the Winter Maiden. Although, I mean, I'd say I would think that Ozpin would know that, but that's not necessarily true. And there's just all these different theories going around on who Maria truly is. And it's like... Or what she could be, or what kind of role she could have. There's even theories going around that maybe she's a villain. And I mean, it's valid, because we don't know. We know nothing about her at this point, except her name, and that those goggle things she wears are apparently for her eyesight. Apparently she can't see without them, and she's a little hard of hearing. But that's basically about it. You could also say, oh, she's defenseless. But it's like, I don't think she is. I think that's something she's just claiming. Like, she's just lying about it. To kind of throw them off. Like, she can't trust them or something yet. Which, I mean, is valid. I also think she knows a lot more about what's going on than she's willing to tell. Like, I think she knew who Salem was before Jin's story. I honestly think she did. I'm not 100% confident in that, but I that's what I'm just thinking. Because I definitely think she's very important to the story, and whatever's going on is going to deeply involve whoever she is, or whatever she knows, or whatnot. But yeah, I'm really, really enjoying this season so far. Again, I think that they're taking it too hard on Oz, and I think they're starting to realize that at this point. I think, like, even RWBY, like, when they were in the cellar, when Ruby and Weiss were in the wine room and all, the winery, even Ruby's, like, saying Crow her uncle's taking this a lot harder than any of them. And, of course, that's specifically referencing what they were told and all. And the entire thing with Ozpin. So it's clear that RWBY and I would assume even Weiss at this point, they're not really focused on that anymore. It's like that. They're not really as upset by it anymore. Yang might be. Yang's a bit of a fiery, tempered girl. She is. So I could imagine her still being upset, but I don't think the others are as much. Not anymore. And then there's the entire part about Weiss, about asking about if they really have to go back to Alice. I don't think she was having second doubts about it just because of what they learned and everything, and about getting the relics not seeming as important anymore. I think it was more of still she has that fear about going back. She just escaped from there. She doesn't want to go back. I think it's still a lot of that. So I think she was just trying to use the entire excuse of what they just learned as a kind of way to hide what she's truly afraid of. That's just my theory, though. A lot of this is just theorizing. But yeah, I'm really interested to see where this ends up going. I really am. There's a lot of ways it could go. A lot of things could happen. And something big and or bad is going to happen soon. So, we'll see. We'll see. But either way, tell me in the comments below what you thought of this episode of RWBY. Tell me what you thought of the entire horror-themed aspect of the farms, of Brunswick Farms. Tell me what you thought of Neo's return, and the fact that I guess she's going to be working with Cinder now. And just how all of this is going. I can't wait to see other people's reactions to this, but I know they won't be up till this Saturday as well when you're seeing this anyways. But yeah, like I said before, I am recording this on Monday, so it's like, I've got to wait almost the entire week. I mean, I have plenty of stuff to do until then, but still. Either way, so yeah, tell me your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.
And though you've come through many obstacles, shed tears along the way, you're still standing, live, love, laugh.